Oh, here's something. Let's start our Justice League conversation.
Oh boy.
What's the old boy about? What's the
Oh,
trepidation?
oh, nothing.
No, it was just a good movie. That's all.
Yeah, sure.
It was a great movie. That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really, really, really good, right?
It was cool. It was cool.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed I probably enjoyed more the external stuff than I did the internal stuff. I enjoyed the fact that Zack Snyder got a chance to get his vision out. I like the fact
Mm-hmm.
that fans that have been, championing for this, like, got a win. Um, I think that those type of things are, I mean, everything that happened is unprecedented. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've had anything equivalent to that that has gone on for that long and the studios caved. But even though they had like a weird little loophole because it was streaming and not theatrical, whatever. But yeah, I like the fact that the little guy won. You know, but if we're talking about the merits of the movie, I mean, I put the bar higher when the stakes are higher, right? So um Marvel, for example, and I hate comparing Marvel to DC because I think it's stupid when people do that, but I'm
Okay.
stupid right now. But just for the sake of comparison, or for my example, Marvel had 10 years of buildup with
Mm-hmm.
Thanos and all that stuff. The stakes were high. Now, if Marvel had done something with Thanos like in 2009, when it was only like a year or two, and we were still dealing with B and C level characters,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing really at stake. Like, nobody would care if Tony Stark died at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. But like, if you build this up for 10 years, man, whatever you do in Infinity War and whatever you do in Endgame better be close to epic proportions. And I feel like when it comes to Justice League, even though they didn't have the head start of Marvel of building up a 10-year, cinematic universe and stuff like that, they still had the best toys in the basket. You know what I'm saying? They still had
Mm-hmm.
the best players on the court. They had LeBron and Jordan on the same team. Batman and Superman are the top three most popular characters in fiction, damn near. So I'm sitting here thinking like, yo, when you got LeBron and Jordan on the same team, you need to go undefeated. The stakes are just that high. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, what you did was good, but ooh, you add some of the writing still doesn't make sense. It's getting clowned on social media right now as we speak. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
there was a report saying that there was 24 to 25 minutes of slow motion. Slow motion. That much, 10% of your movie is slow motion?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's too much.
Yo.
So here's the thing. As I said in my review, it was long, it was flawed, but it was still good. So yes, I still had a good enough time with it.
So I noticed that the feedback online is like it's like one or two things.
Hmm.
It's either people like really, really like overwhelmingly love it,
Hmm.
or they're just like, all right, that was better.
Yeah,
Right? It's a little
right.
little tepid, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody hates it. I don't think
Nobody
anybody's saying
hates
like
it. No.
no, this is a bad movie. Is
If anybody hates it, they're in a small minority.
and I don't and I feel weird when like trying to compare it to like a Marvel movie. Like if I
Yeah.
was like to look at like, obviously the most obvious comparison would be directly to an Avengers movie,
Right.
right? Like, oh, how does this compare to an Avengers movie? Like if I compared it to all the Avengers movies or just Endgame and Infinity War,
Hmm.
because that's a different
Hmm.
conversation.
Right.
The other thing is like it probably is better suited to be compared to another DC movie. I saw like
Hmm.
this meme online where somebody was posted like not a meme, it was just like a thing, like one of those images where somebody said like on Rotten Tomatoes or something, it's certain
Hmm.
at a score next to The Dark Knight. Like just right under The Dark Knight as the top two highest rated comic book movies of all time. And I'm like, really? This overtook
Mm-hmm.
like even the Marvel stuff? So it's really interesting seeing what the reaction is overall. I agree with what you said, like how Darkseid was kind
He was
of.
depowered. I think he was less menacing compared to his other iterations in the comics and in the animated stuff.
That's fair. And you know what this has made me feel like? First off, I really enjoyed the movie, like a lot.
Yeah,
Maybe a lot
sure.
more than I cared to people like it's really resonate. You gotta remember, I wrote off all DC movies, right? I still
Yes, you
haven't
did.
watched Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman 1 and 2. Like, yeah, yo.
You quit on like the
No,
better movies,
I saw Aquaman, but I didn't
but you ain't
see.
see Shazam. I told you, Shazam is still to me one. Shazam is the one movie outside of Wonder Woman where I was like, oh my god, DC has some hope. Like
Yeah,
y'all actually did this the right way. Like this was it. Aquaman was just like it was good, but it was good because just like Batman v
after
Superman, they threw
I was
everything at
it
us.
was too late, man. It was too late. Look, I had to
Let's see.
go through Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, like the
Did you
first
watch
release
the
of
Ultimate
Justice
Edition?
League. I actually started to watch it because of how much I like Justice League. I'm sitting here, so I watched Justice League like 2.5 times already, right? And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna go back and give this Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman a shot because it's ridiculous how different this is.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
maybe
yeah. Yes.
So maybe if I look at the completed vision of Batman v Superman, maybe I'll look at
Well,
it a bit
you
more
would have
favorably.
to watch Man of Steel, Ultimate Edition BVS, and then this Justice League.
Well, I get
That
it
would
now.
give you Snyder's, as much of his unfiltered look. But like one thing I was mentioning though is like, yeah, actually it's close to what you had mentioned earlier. It's hard to escape the internal comparison with the
Mm-hmm.
Whedon version.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible. Like, and it's also kind of like unfair. It's like having a trash team, and then all of a sudden
Man.
you have like a superstar come to your team. Like obviously it's going to make a difference, right? Like obviously you're going to score more points. Obviously you're going
Yeah,
to,
but
win a
it's
couple
not that.
more
It's about
games.
what they took away from the
I mean,
original.
don't get me wrong. That's part of it too, right? Because again, it transformed the movie. The fact that we got more cyborg, the fact that we got more backstories,
Too.
it gave the movie more depth
Do
than
you
what we got before.
do you feel differently about the Steppenwolf design now? Because I know before we was clowning
I
it.
liked it. No, 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 no. Well, to be
Well, what
fair,
the
the
man
the v,
exists.
the special effects weren't done yet. To be fair,
Yeah.
like they just did it just for the sake of trailers, or whatever. So I was like, okay, let me wait till he kind of cleaned it up a little bit, because the still images for it were not
Mhm.
doing it. It was not helping.
So
But I like what they did with him in the movie.
if we had to compare Marvel to DC in one way, I would say this film had a good villain, whereas Marvel films tend to not always have good villains. Like Steppenwolf, I will honestly say he might not
Ah,
be like scary, like a dark side type villain, but he was definitely the antagonist,
no,
beginning to end, that was entertaining.
no, no. I
Why
disagree.
not?
Now, if you're talking about Marvel Phase 1 and 2, 100% agree with you.
Okay.
But Marvel in Phase 3, they stepped it up a notch with their villains.
Who, Ghost?
No, I would say Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo was a better villain.
Or who was the
Killmonger
villain
was
for
hands down a better villain.
Captain Marvel?
Thanos is a better villain. I mean, the
Who
once
was
Marvel started realizing, like, hey, let's
the
stop doing
Vulture?
these.
The Vulture?
Who?
The Vulture?
Oh, Vulture. Yeah, Vulture was a better villain. Maybe to some degree, Ultron. He's not in my top five, but
So
all I'm saying is Marvel has learned to get away from like the one-dimensional villains, because that is what
yeah,
Steppenwolf was. He was
but
one-dimensional.
my
Matter of
argument
fact, that's
he
kind of
was.
what Darkseid is too. Like, there's no depth to these characters, to
Yes,
these
they do.
villains.
Yes, they do. They have depth and they have a
Tell me.
lot of detail to it. But and
Tell
that's
me.
whether or not it's going to be explored. It's often hinted at.
I'm talking
But
about what we see right now.
what
What
we
do you
see
see
right
now?
now with the depth with his relation to Darkseid, the hierarchy, his relationships to Desaad, the Granny Goodness, Apocalypse,
What do
everything
you have?
that.
Please break it down. Please break it down.
Oh
Because
my
here's the
goodness.
thing. Here's the thing. Outside of, because they could have played into that, right? Like they have that stuff in the
So they
comics
had
and
like
in
little
the
things.
animated stuff where Steppenwolf was actually like, what was it, like his stepson or something like that, or
No,
adoptive
no, he was
son?
just none of the above. He's just
No,
a
I'm just
general.
saying, like
He's just
they had
so
another
he's more
relationship.
like you remember the old Transformers cartoon with Starscream?
Yes.
He's more like Starscream.
I
He's just
get
trying
that
to usurp
now.
his
I get
boss,
that
right?
now, but I'm saying in the earlier depictions, Steppenwolf had a relationship with Darkseid where it
No,
was almost like a father-son dynamic.
never, never. You're confusing him with someone else. That was
I
with
don't think so.
what's his name?
I think that was in
Calabac.
Justice.
That was Calabac. You're thinking about
Was he the
Calabac.
beast-looking one?
Yeah. And that's
Hold
the one that had the paternal relationship with Darkseid because that's the
Okay.
one that
Okay. You're right. You're right. You're right. Hold
Orion.
on.
So Steppenwolf was always a general that always was in this relationship with him. It was always more like Starscream and I can't think of this dude's name.
Wow. Yeah. You're right. I did get them confused. Good call. Good job. Yeah, because dude, he was actually more of a human figure in the
Yeah.
animated one.
So
Yeah.
so
Gosh,
with
I got them messed up.
so he actually was really good because like there's this hierarchy with the apocalyptic
Yeah.
warriors and Darkseid's army,
Yeah.
right? Like I noticed like little things like when he would speak to Desaad, he would get
Mhm.
like, he would get respectful, like but he would kind of get a little lippy with him, right? He'd be like,
Sure.
"Yeah, but I need
Yeah, because
this."
I can come for your spot.
Yeah, but when Darkseid had that one scene with Desaad and you just see
Hmm.
him freak all the way out, and he did something I never seen him did throughout the rest of the movie. His armor started to recede. You started to see his actual
You
skin,
mean
his
when he was
actual
talking
face.
to Darkseid?
Dark side, yeah. And
Yeah.
that is more indicative of like his relationship to the character. So not only did they establish him, Desaad, and him trying to like his motivations for trying to gain favor back with Darkseid, it also set the hierarchy between him, Desaad, and Darkseid, even though Darkseid took that L against the old gods back then. To think, he took an axe to the shoulder and is still feared by an entire planet and has them wrapped around his finger. That says a lot.
What is the depth for the character of Steppenwolf there? That
Steppenwolf,
doesn't tell.
we
That
understand.
tell
We understand.
to talk about
We
the
have a
external
better understanding
dynamics.
of his motivations,
He just
right? And
wants to
he's not.
please. He wants to please Darkseid so he can move up
Before
the
he was
ranks.
calling Mother Box his mommy.
What does that have to do with anything?
So this is an improvement on his motivations and his character
Compared to
as a
what?
villain
Are you talking about to the Whedon cut?
compared to the Whedon cut and just compared in general to comic book movie villains. He has a motivation. He has a history. He has a goal. He has relations to other characters.
That doesn't make it deep. I
No,
mean,
that
all
makes
these
him a
things can
good
exist.
comic
No,
book
I'm saying
villain.
you can have all those things happen. You can have a motivation. You can have a
Yes.
relationship. You can
Yes.
have connections. You can have
Yes.
all those things, and they still not be deep. He's
Yeah,
not a
and
deep
that's what.
character,
No, I'm saying he's a good villain. I
and
didn't
I'm
say he was
saying
a
he's
deep
not
villain. I said
because
he's
he's
a
overly
good villain.
simplistic. He's overly simplistic. He's
Mm.
literally that elevated henchman
That's
that
like
just
saying,
wants to go up the ranks.
you
Who
know,
cares? Who
when I
cares?
was watching Captain America, I never said Crossbones was a bad villain, right? He was a great villain because he was good for what he was doing. But this is the same thing with him.
But they gave Crossbones dynamics, though. They gave him different levels. At first, he was
Rules are
just like
different.
at first first of all, he was like part of the Hydra team or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Right. So he was
Right?
part of Hydra, but then
Hydra Apocalypse.
he also started to develop. And I don't even want to defend Crossbones because honestly, he was not like he wasn't that deep either. But at least the one
But he
thing
was a
that was kind of
good
interesting was the fact that he
antagonist.
started to have um animosity towards Captain America. Like it went from yo, I'm just being part of Hydra to no, I just don't like you.
You didn't like the way that he was teasing Wonder Woman throughout the entire movie. Like he picked on her. Like your sisters was crying. They was thinking about you. Like, dude.
I mean,
Yo,
again, that makes him deep.
that makes him a better developed villain. That's
I
what
don't,
I'm saying.
I don't care. I don't care. I think what makes a villain deep, at least gives them some sort of depth or complexity, is
Because
when their motivations are
not every
probably
villain is going to be a Thanos or a Killmonger. Some of the villains are a little bit more
simple,
less rooted.
less complicated.
No, less rooted in over convoluted stories with too many motivations.
It ain't gotta
Their
be all that.
motivations could just be simple. I want to do bad stuff.
That is stupid. That is stupid.
What?
Nobody wakes up and they're like, I want to do bad stuff.
What people
I
just
wanna
can't
do
be
bad
crazy
things
anymore?
today.
Crazy just stopped being a thing. Crazy people are still crazy in the world.
No, but here's the thing. Crazy is not crazy to the person who's crazy.
Unless
That's
they
what
realize they're
no, because
crazy.
when you look at Heath Ledger, he didn't when he was playing Joker, that character didn't say like, I just want to do bad things. He was doing things.
I just want to make the world burn.
Right, but he was doing it for a purpose. His
Yeah,
purpose
'cause he
was
just
to
wants to
show
see-
the world how insane it was and how all it takes is one bad day. He still thought he was doing something good. No
He
matter
didn't
how
think he was
twisted it
doing something good. He
was,
thought he was doing
he
something
still
funny.
thought he was doing something. It doesn't matter. Even if it was funny, it was good to him. And
He
that's
just
the
thought
thing.
it was ironic. He wanted people to sympathize with him. I
Irony
had
is
one
still a
bad
form of
day.
humor.
Everybody should be able to sympathize with me.
It's
Let me
still
show
a
you.
form of humor. It's still a form of like, yo, I want everyone to get this joke. He
Yeah.
was a complex villain.
He was a complex villain, but he
Steppenwolf is
also had a
literally
simple
no
motivation.
different.
He was a
Steppenwolf is
complex villain with a simple motivation.
Steppenwolf was no different than a villain from like the 1980s. Like he was not that
Steppenwolf
deep.
was definitely better than a villain in the 1980s. What are you talking about? If we had to compare him
Just
to like
like
somebody like who's the villain from Ed Norton's Hulk?
Annihilation or
Right?
Abomination.
Or Thor, the first movie,
I
right?
told you them first. I already gave you that. I told you phase 1 and 2. That's when Marvel had
Yeah.
other
So
simple
this
villains.
is now what we have standards, right? So they met the standard. This is a good villain.
We called those other villains bad in phase 1 and 2. That's when Marvel got
Because
the
I'm saying
reputation.
Steppenwolf is
No, it's
better than them.
literally when Marvel
I'm
got the
saying
reputation.
Steppenwolf is better than them.
I'm saying he's equal to them.
You
I'm saying he
he's
is
up
nothing
there
but a
with-
Marvel phase 1 and phase 2 villain. That's who Steppenwolf is.
You ain't right.
He is.
He's not. He's definitely better than the phase 1 and phase 2 villains because he's actually somebody that you enjoy or have like a reaction to. Phase 1 and phase 2 villains, ain't nobody was sitting there worried about if the destroyer armor. No. With this character, you actually had like moments where you were invested in his interactions with the heroes. Right? Oh, is Wonder Woman going to get her revenge? Is he going to attack Cyborg? Does he seem like an actual threat? He's definitely better.
The only thing I give him credit for is the fact that he was able to physically be imposing enough to pose a legitimate challenge to the hero.
Even
that part. But even that is simplistic in itself. Literally, Doomsday could do that. Doomsday did do that.
Doomsday did do it, but he was way more entertaining than Doomsday.
I mean, he's more entertaining because he can speak, sure, but
and he had more character
saying,
development. Doomsday, we would argue, is an example of horrible villain development. Right? We had zero investment in that.
I don't think that there's that. I don't think it's that deep. I don't think it's that deep.
Anyway,
Steppenwolf is not. He's not a villain that we're going to be sitting here talking about for the
really
years
loved
to come.
it, or they're like, "Oh, it's okay. It's a tepid." And I'll say that's the general reaction.
Sure.
I will say this: the movie did change my mind on the DCEU. Like I said, the whole thing got me.
It's not connected, and they've already went in different directions.
I'm just talking about the films that came prior. So
I am too. This movie is not connected to anything.
What, Justice League?
Yes,
I'm just
this
talking
movie.
about the original vision for it, right? How did
Oh,
now I
so you're
understand
talking about the
what it
Snyder
is.
verse,
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, you know what? Now I'm looking at the Snyderverse and
but you can't look at anything else. That's what I'm saying. Like
no, no, just the
after
Snyderverse.
Batman v Superman, and you have this
No,
new
Man of
Snyder
Steel.
cut.
Man of Steel
That's
too.
it, and
Man of Steel
and
too.
Man of Steel. But that's
So
it.
like
You can't
now
look
I'm
at Wonder
looking at it
Woman.
with a different lens. No, not Wonder Woman because that
I
movie
mean,
was
you can't look at Wonder Woman
so
84. You can't look
that
at
movie was terrible too.
Shazam. You can't
Nope,
look at Harley
nope,
Quinn. You
nope.
can't look at
Just Suicide
Aquaman.
Squad and the
All those other movies don't count.
I'm just talking about the ones that were existed in the Snyderverse.
Okay.
This makes me have a better understanding of what they were originally going for. And now
Sure.
I kind of appreciate it a little bit different. So you know, I had an interesting effect, and we talked about it with WandaVision, right? How like after we were watching WandaVision, I went back and I watched Age of Ultron again, and I was like, you know what? It actually
It adds
added
something.
value to
Yeah.
Age of Ultron with WandaVision.
Yeah.
So now I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, is might be adding value to these other movies that came before it. So now I'm starting to better understand some of the narrative that Zack Snyder was trying to tell throughout the films.
Where do you see the added value? Because I would say that there are a couple plot holes going on right now.
Specifically with Superman. Superman
Oh,
was
okay.
probably the
Yeah.
number one character that gained the most added value.
Well, he's always
Well,
been like Snyder's
he
pet.
he's the central character that they're moving like a story along throughout the films, right?
Yes.
He's kind of like their Captain America, where Captain America had this
Sure.
arc with him and Peggy throughout all the movies.
Sure.
With Clark, it's more about how he wanted to subvert the expectations of us expecting, you know, another take on Brandon Routh or the Christopher Reeve version of
Sure.
Superman, something that's more like the Boy Scout.
Sure.
And he wanted to subvert that and instead give us a damaged Superman, someone who didn't exactly turn out the way that we remember him. But I think he had a long game where he was going to introduce that character later. It just wasn't going to be introduced at first. And his storytelling, I'll admit, is not always good. There's no argument. Zack Snyder does not
Wait,
know
wait,
how to
wait, wait.
tell
We're not gonna put this on
stories.
Snyder, even though it is kind of on him. That's
It
Chris
is.
Terrio. That's
I
Chris
would
Terrio.
no, no, no.
Chris
Chris
Terrio's got
Terrio
some of the.
scripted it, but Zack Snyder and Jim Lee plotted it.
I mean, but that's the thing. I don't have too much. I give
So
I give Zach his issues. I give him his some crud about the decision to add Doomsday and to
I wouldn't
waste
even
Superman's death.
I
Like
wouldn't
stuff
even
like
talk
that
about it
is
from that.
stupid.
I would say before that, let's talk about the crazy amount of destruction in Metropolis and Gotham
Sure,
City when he was fighting General Zod, snapping
sure.
Zod's neck,
What
right? The
about it?
decision to do that.
What
This
about
is
it?
this is all leading into this overall story I think he was trying to tell with Superman.
Yeah, of course.
And now I'm saying like Justice League is adding value to it. So like one thing that's really different in this film versus the Whedon cut is that when he comes back to life, what color suit does he wear? Right? Everybody's like,
I
oh, what
wish
is
they
this?
would have explained that. That would have been nice.
I
I
think
mean, we know why he picked it because of the comic origins, but if you're watching this movie cold or whatever, you're like, oh, he just picked the black suit.
I think it's a little bit more storytelling. I think it's
I
more
don't.
indicative.
Not if you don't say anything. You don't give
I
any actual
I, I
indication.
come on. I tried to preface it that the man's not great with storytelling.
I mean, one line, a computer could have been like, "Hey, you still need to heal. Why don't
he's
you get
more
this
of like
black suit?"
he's more of like these people that like to work backwards, right? He has an end goal, and then the end goal will explain the story from the preceding seven films. And I'm starting to understand his really weird way of thinking. I think he was trying to give us a story of where Superman started to have all of the support systems in place that he had in his traditional or previous incarnations chipped away. He doesn't have the support system of his Earth parents. He doesn't have the support system of Lois Lane when he needed it. He doesn't have that. relationship with his Kryptonian family the way he did with the Fortress of Solitude. He doesn't have a lot of the support and mentoring and upbringing to make him the more well-rounded Superman with
Sure.
the S curl that
Yeah.
believes in truth, justice, and the American way. And instead, we're getting a Superman that can be fallible. He can be infiltrated. He can be coerced. He can be manipulated.
Yeah.
And they were trying to introduce that into what we're seeing with this Superman now. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it actually does draw on a lot of previous Superman stories and a lot of DC stories where they talk about how Superman, who doesn't have that support system, is coerced by Darkseid and he takes over and he does all this crazy stuff. But I didn't see it then. I didn't understand it then, and I'm starting to get it now. Like the black suit is more just than that. It's a physical indication that this isn't this Superman is going down a dark path, right? When he was being resurrected and the Kryptonian ship was talking to Cyborg and freaking out like, "Don't do it, don't do it. This is a bad mistake. Things are going to go wrong." And he had that premonition of the future for a moment. This is showing us how we think things are going well, but they're really going south. And here's our little visual clue. And then it leads into the nightmare sequence where Superman is in the red and blue and all that other stuff. But this is all more of the story of the downward fall of Superman. He's not going to go up into the hero that we expect. Instead, he's getting all his support systems, all his help, all his friends, all his supporting characters, everything taken away, and he's going to be fallible. And then I think, here's my theory, that the Flash at some point was supposed to go back in time, find something to change in the past to maybe alter his upbringing and make him more in line with the type of Superman that we needed versus the one that we ended up with.
No.
That was my long-term theory on here. And I think
they kept
actually
driving at the fact that Lois is the key. So clearly,
no, and I think that was the
Lois
misdirect.
dies
I
somewhere.
think that was the misdirect because we know what the key was. We actually saw the key. When you go back to Man of Steel, there's that one pivotal moment where Pa Kent was in the tornado and he's like, "Nah,
That was
Clark,
so
don't."
I
It
hate
was
that.
stupid, but you got to think about it. Think about how that's a pivotal moment for Clark, right?
Sure.
And if they say Lois is the key, that wasn't it. It was really when Pa Kent died that his views on the world changed. That was the moment that I think that they were gonna. Oh man, I just blew out my whole theory. That was my moment. I think the Flash was eventually going to realize was what he had to change. He had to go back to Smallville, save Pa Kent, so that Clark could get the better father figure to be a better, more well-rounded man as he got older. It's something that's really cool. It's something that's inspired from like a Jonathan Hickman Fantastic Four story where they talk about Reed Richards and his relation to his father and his son. But it definitely has echoes of that, and I see where they could have been going. It could have been really, really great if he had been able to finish. But it sucks because without that, way of cushioning it for audiences, if you just throwing in the gritty, you're throwing in the harsh, you're throwing in Doomsday at the beginning, wasting the death of Superman, you're not telling everybody what your ultimate end game is. It seems dumb.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why many people, including myself, have been saying, if you want to tell that story, why the hell weren't we getting a Man of Steel 2? Because here's the thing, Justice League is not Superman's story. It's supposed to
Batman
be
v Superman is.
Batman v Superman is kind of his story, but it's also Batman's story too.
I would argue it's more of a Superman
it's
story than a Batman story.
Not really, because if you want to go that route, Batman significantly changes as well as a result. Like the Batman we see in Justice League is a direct byproduct of the Batman we see in Batman v Superman.
Dies.
Right. But that's the thing. Look at where Batman started. But look at where he started in the beginning of the movie. You're talking about somebody that's been fighting crime for 20 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he's already a seasoned vet. He's already Mr. Logical, analytical, not caring person. And then he progressed to becoming literally a man of faith, which he admits that's not even his.
He was a cynical person because he took a lot of L's in Gotham.
Sure, but he also said, I usually take the analytical, logical approach. And Alfred was like, yeah, like you do. So what's going on? He was like, faith, Alfred, faith.
It's because
it's all because it's all because of the death of Superman and the promise he made him, and it literally changed his heart. So if we're gonna sit here and talk about that, because obviously there's some Christian parallels going on here, right? Like Snyder, who I want to say is a pretty religious guy, he wanted to make Superman this Christ-like figure. I mean, it's all over
Yeah,
the map. But what he ended up doing was
standard.
Right, but he also made Batman a Pauline figure. He's Paul from the Bible. Like he's that guy who was like, oh my gosh, I used to be this person that used to, go after people, but now I'm a changed man. And he's like the main follower of Superman.
But isn't that, I don't want to say good storytelling, but isn't that a cool concept?
No, here's the thing. Zack Snyder is the kind of guy who brainstorms themes very well. That's not his problem.
It's
the
execution.
Is execution. If we were sitting in a writer's room and he was just like, yo, blah 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 blah, he can talk 100%. You into and sell you the idea and the themes that connect everything. And I think this is one of the reasons why he sold even Christopher Nolan on being this is why we're killing Superman. This is why we're doing this.
3 films in, I get it. Now I like it. 3 films in, first 2 films, I was like, I'm out. I'm definitely out, and I'm never coming back. 3rd film, now I'm like, man, I wish they would give me more. I honestly wish that we would get more of the Snyderverse. I do.
I don't care. I
wish we were getting Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. I wish we were getting Justice League 3. I think that, there's so many little things about his care to the characters that I saw in this movie that made me appreciate his handling of them. Like just the way that he handled the Flash, right? Like I'm a huge Flash fan. The way he handled the Flash, he respected all his powers. He respected it. He actually made him a developed character. I would totally be down. The way he handled Wonder Woman, I would argue Zack Snyder has given us the best Wonder Woman we've seen in screen, period.
No. He gave us a classic comic book male-oriented version of Wonder Woman. He gave us what male nerds would love about Wonder Woman. I think Patty Jenkins gave us the best Wonder Woman in the first one, not the second movie, but in the first movie. But no, like Zack gave us what we've been conditioned to like when most of the stories
I'm just talking about her as a character.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Her abilities, her powers, not somebody who's swinging from lightning bolts with her lasso. I'm not counting
the second movie. I already told you
that was the first movie. That was the first Wonder Woman movie.
No, it was not. It was. She did not lasso on lightning in the first movie.
Yes, she
did.
That
was in the second movie.
No, that was the first movie when she was going to fight Ares. Yes, it was.
Stop it. She did not lasso no damn.
Dude,
don't make me go rewatch this.
I am not.
I know I would. Okay, the CGI must have been that bad where I could not catch that.
The first movie, I did not like the first Wonder Woman movie.
I liked the first movie. The first movie was cool. Now the third act was terrible.
I think that
I'm mad that you about to make me go rewatch the ending.
I think that she had a better handling of her character in the first movie. She had some cool character handling. Yes. I wouldn't say it's a good movie though.
Those are 2 different points. 2 different points.
The movie's forgettable. The movie's forgettable.
No, it's not. When we talk about her character, though, her character was better handled there.
Played the villain.
Ares. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care.
Played him.
Stop it.
Right, but we know Pedro Pascal in '84.
No,
right?
No. And I'm not. I'm not about to. Stop.
Wonder Woman.
I don't care. I'm not about to give Zack Snyder a pass on what he did with Wonder Woman because honestly, even with his special effects of her, it's like because of his slow motion and her speed that got amped up. Apparently, she's almost as fast as the Flash in that bank scene.
She's not as fast as Flash.
Bro, she stopped and looked at a bullet moving.
She's super fast.
She's almost as fast as the Flash.
No, I didn't say she can. The
I'm
Flash
saying
is
that's
much
what the
faster than that.
visuals implied. The way
She's
that
very quick,
literally the dog is
and that
barking
was supposed to
and the
be the
dog
way to
stops barking as if time
illustrate
has
her
slowed
powers
down.
better than Zack Snyder ever did. This is like what differentiate like this is a good example of her powers on display, right? She is that fast. Yes, she can not only see a bullet coming fast when it comes to automatic fire. This is why she's able to dodge block every bullet because
I
this is
get
how
all
she's
that.
perceiving
I get
time.
all that. I get
Way
all
better
that.
handling of her powers, way better handling
Disagree.
of the
Disagree.
Amazons.
Disagree. The Amazons, yes, but with Wonder Woman, no. Like she's literally moving like the Flash. And the thing
The
is,
only
if you cannot differentiate for us visually, we get it. Like you and I,
the
we get it that Superman is fast, Wonder Woman's fast, Flash is fast. But even within those three characters, there's still a difference.
Nah,
And you
man, I
know that.
could tell the
Stop.
difference in speed between the Flash and Wonder Woman because they have instances where they show the differences in speed between Superman and the Flash, and then the Flash by himself, right? There's that moment when Superman's resurrected and he's got Cyborg by the
Yes.
neck and Wonder Woman by the neck, and he tosses them, and they're still moving in slow motion while Superman and the Flash are moving at super speed. Wonder Woman can't keep up with their speed. They're faster than she is, and that's a good scene that illustrates that. And then when we want to talk about the Flash's speed beyond Superman's, it's at the end of the movie when he rewinds time. They do have these levels where they show that yes, they are
Yes.
fast
What
and
I'm
one is
saying
fast.
is
They do
that
power scale it.
that
They
power
power
scale
scale it.
was already developed in the first Wonder Woman movie when she was
Yeah,
deflecting bullets and stuff. She didn't
but
have to
here's
move
where it
like
is
this. She
next
didn't
to
have
each
to move
other.
like this where we
This
couldn't
is
literally see her hands. She was like
this
pow,
is where
pow,
we
pow,
compare
pow.
it.
Huh?
This is how they compare it to another. They have three examples of the three fast
I
characters in
get
the
it, but
same
that's
movie.
not. But the thing is, nobody is sitting here thinking in the very first scene, oh, that's how fast Wonder Woman is. And then, ooh, let me wait 3.5 hours later to compare it to Superman down the road.
I
Nobody's
don't think
doing that.
anybody's
So
comparing
here,
it at all, but I think
but
they're
that's
just noticing it. She's really fast. She's a lot faster
yes.
than I
What I'm
thought she
saying is the
was.
way that they made her they made her look too fast for her character.
That's
They literally handled it perfectly. What was one of the biggest things people loved about the first Wonder Woman is how she was handling business. Yes, she's faster than the average person,
you know.
obviously, like super fast than the
So
average
I would
person.
just argue that they don't show these characters' speed well enough, more often than not in these
I
films,
think they should be more
because
distinctive with it.
I think that Zack Snyder probably showed how fast these characters compared to their comic book origins are supposed to be than the other comic book movies do.
If
Now,
we have to bring comics into this, I would
that's
say
all I'm
that
saying. That's all
no,
I'm
I'm
saying.
saying no. I get you. What I'm saying is like I knew at least from a comics perspective, there was always a vast difference in speed with Quicksilver versus Flash, because
Hmm.
Quicksilver could only run beyond the speed of sound. Like that was his like max, give or take. I don't know if they've
Yeah,
hyped him up beyond that, but that was his limit. Flash was able to go beyond the speed of light.
it
So
could
there
go
was,
beyond the speed of thought.
well, that too, right? But my point is, they showed that differentiation. When you saw Quicksilver running versus Flash running, even in the comics, you knew there was a big difference. You
Hmm.
knew that if they ever crossed the multiverse and was doing a foot race, Quicksilver is getting smoked, right?
Yes.
In this instance, because of how he shot Wonder Woman, that's all I'm saying. The special effects, the slow motion, effects that were also added, because of how he specifically did it this way, it made her look
This
as
is
fast as everyone as
a
Flash.
silly debate about this man's use of slow motion. We are watching a Zack
Overuse of slow
Snyder movie. I don't go into Transformers and be like, man, there's too many goddamn explosions in this Michael Bay movie. This is
I
a
do.
Zack
What the hell?
Snyder movie. We're gonna get
Everybody
some
does.
slow mo.
What are you
You
talking
know
about?
what you
Everybody
buying.
goes
You
into a
know
Michael
what you
Bay
bought.
movie
If I
and
go to
says there's too many
McDonald's and I get a
explosions.
hamburger, I'm expecting it to taste like a McDonald's hamburger. When I walk into a Zack Snyder movie, I expect slow mo and bad storytelling.
See, now here's my thing, because like when I watch something like 300,
Yeah,
that to me was
lots of
probably
lots of slow mo,
I
tons of slow
know,
mo.
but there's a difference. No one is saying that slow motion in itself is problematic. It's
No,
about
for
when
doing
and how you use it. And
this.
in Justice League, he happens to overuse it.
I
That's
would
all.
argue that he uses it as much as he does in his prior films. I
I
would
would
say
argue he does not.
300
I would
has
argue that
just
he
as
does
much
not.
slow motion, especially
No,
his
I would say
director's
that
cut.
the moments when he uses it in 300 mean more. I mean, like for example,
That's
what's the
different.
most one of
No,
the
no, no.
most
That's
iconic?
different between frequency and effect.
No,
You
I
said
think they
it's
go hand in
overuse
hand.
and if it's used
No, no,
well.
no. It's not overused if it's used effectively. There were moments where he was using it in Justice League and it served no purpose. It was not effective. And because of that lack of efficiency,
This
that's when it
is
becomes
a
overused.
Zack Snyder movie. You just got to
Saying
understand
that
that
means
it's going to
nothing.
be just take your pills and enjoy the movie. This is how you got to enjoy a Zack Snyder movie. There's going to be slow motion.
And I feel like
It,
I don't understand why a director like this has to get a pass when again he's
it's
playing with
not a
like
pass. It's a
one of
style. It's a
no,
style.
no, 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 no. I don't care if it's a style. Styles does not mean well because this is your style, you're above reproach, or because it's your style, we have to give it a pass. No, that's a lame excuse and it's lazy. I don't care if it's your style. If it's your style, you should be able to master it, right? And do it like no one else. Like for example, Spike Lee has a certain style. We know Spike Lee's style. But sometimes my man Spike Lee will go overboard with his own style and
He's
it
got to do that
distracts from
thing
the
where
movie.
they
Yeah,
moving towards the
with the
camera.
yeah, or the top view and stuff. Like he'll do some things where it's really well done, it's well placed, and we'd be like, "Yo, that's a Spike Lee joint,"
Yes.
And then sometimes
And
he'll
then
go
Michael Bay
overboard.
blows things up, and the Wachowskis do all these weird camera angles, and Steven Spielberg always likes to have some spunky kid show up at some weird moment to
Once
say some
again, it's
one-liners.
not a problem that you have a stylistic approach. It's about how and when and how frequently you use it. Does it work? If it doesn't work, it's a problem. If it does work, we commend you. It's a give
I
and take. We cannot be here so biased and be like, well, because I love the movie, because I love Zack Snyder, and this is what Zack Snyder does, therefore he could just do whatever he
all I'm
wants. And
saying
because
is
it's a style, it's okay.
it's an,
I'm gonna praise it. No,
I'm not debating.
we gonna call a spade a spade. We gonna praise it when it works, and we gonna criticize it when it doesn't.
It's it's
It
part of the
should be
package.
that simple.
It's
It
part of the
should be that.
package. I'm with you
No,
on it to a
no,
degree.
it shouldn't be part of no
To a
package.
degree,
We
it's
call a
part of the
spade
package.
a spade.
Zack Snyder movie. We're going to
No,
get
I will
sucker
not
punch.
criticize him for doing something that is his style. That
Is
is,
a
I'm not
style.
gonna be like, oh man, Zack Snyder with the slow mos. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you use your slow mo, did it accomplish whatever you were intending,
So
or overkill?
I got two related questions.
So with Flashpoint, the fact that they're going to establish or reestablish the multiverse and all that stuff, it's an easy win-win for WB Pictures to do their theatrical thing because they're already on a different course. They've
Mm-hmm.
already left the Snyderverse and went a different direction,
Mm-hmm.
and to let HBO maybe do a series, maybe do another direct movie for streaming with Zack Snyder's Snyderverse, and let him complete his thing. You can let them play in two different sandboxes and just say like, "Hey, it's all connected,"
Does
because multiverse. That's the easy thing. Now, here's the problem though:
yeah.
the business side of it. What's the lady's name? The CEO of Warner
And
Media and something, Arkov or something like that. I think.
Sarkov?
Sarkov, I think.
I
So
think and
she came
Sarkov.
out in that big variety piece, and they asked,
Sarnoff.
"Hey,
Sarnoff.
Sarnoff." They asked her straight up, like, "Yo, fans want it. This is doing numbers. Like, what's up?" And she was like, "We're already going our separate course. We're not gonna do it." And that from a business, keep in mind, she's like third on the chain. Like there's
And
the
that's the
head
answer
guy.
she's
There's
supposed
the
to get.
head guy. But here's the thing: there's the head guy at AT&T. Then there's the head guy at Warner. I forget what his name is. And then there's Ann.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: one, you're not about to sit here and put this woman in charge. Keep in mind, we're also in the Me Too movement now, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Me Too era. You're not about to come in and be like, you know what? I like the Snyder Cut. So number two comes down. No, we gonna do the Snyder Cut. You're not about to undermine her in front of everybody like that. You will get trashed. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Two, there's no way you go on a big outlet like Variety that gets sourced by everyone and not have a meeting with everyone involved first? It's not
Right.
like Ann just was like, "Yo, I'm just gonna make this decision and
No.
say, yeah, we're not gonna do this," without everybody else being in the know and giving the okay. So clearly, this is a coordinated response,
Absolutely.
and
And that's the
WWE
response they're
all
supposed to
across the
give from
board,
a
and
corporate
it is.
standpoint.
It is because the other thing is the purpose of that interview that she made was to regain control. She came out and she was like, "Hey, you know what? We heard the fans. We
Mhm.
saw what was going on, and I think you were right because you made a good point about how, there are contractual stipulations
Yeah,
where they can't double dip in the
they
movie. So
can't
that's
double
why
dip. Mm-mm.
that's why you get like director's cuts and stuff like that because it's kind of the same thing but not really or
Yep.
whatever. So they
And it's not
found
being released to theaters. They can
and
only
it's
be
not being
released
in
on a home.
theaters. So they found an interesting loophole, and they couldn't
Mhm.
break it up into episodes either, right?
Because
Because
then that's not a movie, and that's what
that
he
right,
started to argue with them about
right,
because they
and
wanted to do it as a
that's
series.
that's stuff that goes into directors guilds, actors guilds, all these
Yeah,
different unions, contract stipulations. So they found an interesting loophole to put it on HBO Max. And so Anne came out and was like, "Hey, you know what? We let him do his thing. We heard the fans. We found a way to make it work. They don't care about the back contracts. Fans don't care about that. But
no,
legal obligations are legal obligations."
right?
She said, like, "Yo, we gave it to him. There was no interference. We let this man do 4 hours, which normally would never happen. But because of streaming, you have more liability and or flexibility, and we're done with it.
It it was a
That's it.
it was a great win-win for them,
It was a great
and
win-win for them and for
and
fans and for Snyder because he got his vision out. Fans got what they've been crying for, and the
it's
WB people said, like, "Hey, we played ball,
it's
but now
definitely
you also have to look at the bigger picture,
it's
which is
definitely possible though. It's
no.
definitely possible.
But here's the thing: we cannot forget the fact that this is a bloody mess of a relationship. This was a toxic relationship. This was not only did they have the past history with Snyder, and you also have Snyder still coming in saying, "Yo, they wouldn't let me shoot a black Green Lantern,
No, no,
John
no,
Stewart,"
no, no,
or
no. It's
like
not that
they
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 wouldn't let him. It's that they didn't trust him, right? Because
no, according to him, he said they didn't want me to do it. They
yeah,
told me
because
don't
they
do
had
it.
their own plans for the Green Lantern
Sure,
TV show. And
exactly.
honestly, that was, you got to remember back then, this is during the time when he was going through all
Right,
the Batman v Superman
right,
backlash. And when it came to the idea of him introducing more of the characters that they were investing in, they're like,
right.
listen, you're screwing up our Batman, you're screwing
Yes,
up our Superman. We're not
yeah,
giving you our Green Lantern. So
right. They don't.
that's what
They
that
don't.
was about.
No, no. I think it's a combination of all of that, right? Not to mention, why would you want him to introduce John Stewart, in his Snyderverse when you already have it set in your mind as WB that y'all not going further with him? So it's kind of like, no, man, you gonna play with the
Yeah.
toys that you had, and you gonna leave it there because we are gonna develop all
So
this stuff
I
later.
think I think they would have went either way depending on the box office or the response to either. Well, I can't even say that about Justice League. I think they were intending to wait and see how Justice League turned out until his family tragedy. Like that was his last straw. But when his family tragedy happened, then it was just
Yeah,
like, let's just
I
put all the
agree.
toys
No,
away.
I
Let's
agree.
just
I
stop.
think whatever he would have originally done would have been the ultimate test, right? Because you
Yeah,
could have Man of Steel be okay, box office wise, and then you could have BVS not underperform because it
hold on.
underperformed
It
compared to the
did
first one.
underperform, but it
You know,
still made a lot of
it
money. It
made
still
money, but
made
that's
like
not what makes the
800 and
studios.
something million.
That's a failure for something of
It's
that
a
caliber.
disappointment. It's a
No, it's a
disappointment.
failure for
I would
the
say I would argue
bro.
it's not a
No,
failure if the
no,
movie
no,
makes
no, no.
profit.
You cannot have a movie like that at that time. You cannot have again the very first time Batman and Superman, two most popular characters,
Yeah,
be on screen and
absolutely.
y'all can't crack a
But I'm
billion,
just talking
but
about
yet you
I'm
have the
just talking about
disappointing
return
movie
on
of
investment.
Age of Ultron.
If
You
I
have
put
Age of
in
Ultron
2
doing more
and
than
I
that.
get back 8, that is not a failure.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just
It
saying
is a
just from a
failure
corporate
if your
standpoint. I'm just
projection
saying
was over a billion. Yes, it
sure.
is. It
Yeah. So
is.
like
It is a
yeah, so
failure.
I'm sitting here and I'm
It's
like, I put
it's a
in 2.
failure.
I thought I was gonna get back
You
20.
probably
I only got back
forecast this
10,
much.
but I still put in 2. That's still this,
No,
profit.
that's not. You're lowballing. That's not how the executives think. It's just not. And we have
Because they think about
demonstrations of that.
potential earnings. Yes, they
No,
think about potential earnings.
not
And they
only the
think,
potential, but the actual too. Because they're sitting here thinking like, yo, if this meets 30, 40, 50% below projections, we have less confidence to move on with that. We saw the same thing
it,
happen with well, actually with Age of Ultron, because that was Joss Whedon's last straw with Marvel, and we saw the same thing in a
yeah, but
different
Marvel
company
didn't
with
fire
Sony.
Joss Whedon.
No, we saw, well, they just parted ways. But
Joss Whedon, wait.
right. But we also saw the same thing happen with Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man. It made money for sure. It made like what, $700 million, but it didn't make enough money. It
Yes, it did.
underperformed. No, it
Which
underperformed,
Spider-Man?
and
Which one are
that's
you talking about?
amazing. The
Oh,
Andrew
oh,
Garfield ones.
Andrew
It
Garfield.
made money, but it
Nah,
didn't make enough
enough
money,
money.
and that's
And
why they caved and did the deal with Marvel. That's
so
why they got Holland in there and got rid of Garfield,
they,
even though it made money. Both movies made money, but
I
that's
think
not
they were
always
on
the
the
point.
fence about going either way. I think they were on the fence about whether or not they were going to do an Amazing Spider-Man 3 or go with Marvel, depending. And,
If
and
they had made,
I think the
if they had
email
made that
leaks,
billion,
I
they
think
would
the
have kept going.
email leaks pushed them to go with Marvel.
I think the underperformance pushed them to
Yeah,
Marvel.
no,
The fact that you,
hold on, hold
because
on.
here's the
I
thing,
say the
there's no
underperformance made
reason.
them
There's no
consider it, and I
reason.
think the leak pushed them over the edge.
I think there's no reason. If the movie did what, let's say the movie hit $1 billion, nobody's gonna sit here and care about the emails.
No, but you got to look at it another way, right? Let's say Marvel, the MCU didn't exist,
Okay.
right? And Sony was just putting out movies, and their 650 or
Oh,
700
well,
million
this
was
that
now
changes
the
things.
record,
Well,
right?
that
Now this is
changes
the
things.
highest earning
Yeah.
comic book
If there's
movie of
no
all
if there's no
time.
Marvel Studios,
Yeah,
the market changes.
it's only in comparison to Marvel Studios that people have this
Right.
perspective on those
Right.
films. But
But
when you
that's the
take
thing.
away the
That's
Marvel
they
Studios
set the market.
comparison,
They're
these are
setting the
highly
market.
successful films.
They're setting the market. But that's what I was talking about earlier. When Marvel is doing what they're doing with bottom of the barrel characters, and you literally have Spider-Man, number 3, by the way, in the top 3 of popular characters, and then you also have WB with the top 2 most popular characters in fictional, stories or whatever,
Hmm.
and y'all can't even compete with the dudes that are working with less. Now you're that's gonna be a problem.
That's again only a matter of perspective because
I know, but that's my
they
point.
were
That
doing
is the
things with
perspective of the
Spider-Man. They were
executives.
doing stuff that Fox was doing stuff with X-Men that was viewed as phenomenal successes, right? If you go back and look back to 2000's X-Men, the first one,
Oh, you talking about the first one? Oh, okay.
yeah, and
I was
you
gonna
see
say,
how what the view on that film was based off of its box office
yeah,
and what they
because
invested
at
on
that
it.
time we
It
didn't
was
really
a
have
phenomenal
much.
success.
We
Same
didn't have
thing
that
with
much back
X2.
then.
So yeah, these films would be great if you it's just a matter of perspective.
I, that's obvious. Like, it's obvious that it's perspective. What I'm saying is the perspective of the executives, the people in charge of spending this money, making these decisions, is that when these things underperform, it's a failure for them. It's not
Should
just like, oh, well, we made some money, y'all. It's all okay. No, it's a failure because you wanted that 1 billion or more and you didn't get it. So it doesn't matter if you hit 700 and you made 2 off your one. It doesn't matter. To them,
Snyderverse
it
should be
matters,
restored. They
but
should
it's
just
not
make it
going to.
live
But
on
it's not going
HBO
to.
Max.
It's not going to, unfortunately,
My thing,
because
and
now.
we
But if
say
you
that, but you know what?
no, but
We
but,
now
but here's the
hold
thing:
on.
you're going to make them contradict themselves, and
So
they don't want to have to do that. I think the
aren't
fact
you
that
the
they
person
went
who's
out,
sitting here with the campaign to recast T'Challa
that's
go
irrelevant.
against
That's
the,
irrelevant. That's
that's
irrelevant.
comparable, right?
No, no,
This is
no,
a
no, no, no,
statement
no,
of
no, no. Let's not
finality
compare.
by a
It's
higher up
apples and oranges.
executive,
Apples
right?
and oranges.
I
Apples and
have a
oranges.
higher up exec who said this is not happening. And now
Sure,
I'm going to make a campaign to say I want you
sure,
to change your mind.
sure.
What's the difference?
Wait, now you're changing the conversation. We're not talking about the movement and the fan base.
You're
I
saying,
agree with the fan base. I'm okay with people
but
wanting
no, no,
it.
no. But you're saying that Anne Sarnoff made a statement, and
Yes.
now that her word is law. But I'm saying, listen, statements can be retracted, and
Wait. Okay. What was
or
an example of statements being retracted?
or
Because
it could be changed.
last I checked, WB Pictures, who was the people that was saying ain't no Snyder cut coming from us, they didn't retract anything. They kept
Yeah.
their word, and they did not. They had to create.
First
They
off,
had
they
to go to a
denied that the
different
Snyder
division to
cut
make it happen.
existed.
Huh?
First, they denied it existed.
It didn't exist. That's why
No,
they had to give him
no,
$70 million to finish the
no.
product.
They said that this
It
was
didn't exist.
when
A
they originally
consumable.
released it. When they originally released it, they said the version we saw in theaters was Zack Snyder's vision. They said there was no alternate cut of the film for Zack Snyder's cut. They said it never existed, and it took time
Technically, they
from.
are right.
No,
Technically, no.
it's not a finished film. They're saying
Technically,
there's
they're
no
right
other
because
take.
it was not consumable. Zack Snyder had like all this footage, but nothing was really put together. Nothing was
No,
completed. He
he
had the
said
concept stuff.
he had a working cut, and it
Yeah,
was
he
just
had a
missing.
working cut for people in the industry. If he
No,
wanted
that
to go
means he
bring it
had a
up to
different story. That
producers,
means he had a beginning to end movie that was missing CGI and some of the finishing flourishes.
that's what I'm saying. He had his version, but it was not completed for
So
audiences.
what
That is
Warner
what they're
Brothers told us
talking about.
before was there was no other version,
Okay, now that's a different story. But what I'm
right?
saying is
So
when they say, or when WB was saying there's no Snyder cut, it doesn't exist, they're referring to there's no finished up, polished
I
movie
I
that we're just
I
hiding.
think people took it differently. I think they were saying or
Oh,
telling
the message
audiences.
got look, the
No,
message
I
got
don't think
messed
it.
up.
No, I don't think it was messed up. I think it was just clear. They just said there is no other version. This is it. Anybody who tells you there's
No,
another
they're
version is
technically
lying.
right. They're technically right if they want to say that though. I mean,
That's
here's the
double.
thing. Okay, no, but
That's
here
double.
let's just go with that. Let's just go with that, right? Let's just go with that and say like, where's the line? Where is the line go? Because this is almost similar to the abortion, conversation of when does it become real life?
What?
Because no, listen to what I'm saying. At what stage we have the concept of a movie, then we have the finished product for the customers, right? For the
Yeah, when
audience
you film
viewer.
it and you
He
edit
didn't
it
have a
together,
finished product. So what did he have? A
he
6 month
filmed it.
old? Did he have a 6 month old baby? Did he
No,
have a fetus?
no,
Where was he? Where
no.
was
He
he?
had. To me, I don't like this analogy. I think of
But
it
this
more
is what I'm
like
saying.
somebody
This
getting
is how they
dressed.
were
It's like saying,
interpreting
"Am
it.
I going out the? Am I dressed when I leave the house, or am I naked? Am I getting up? Am I putting on pants? Am I putting on a shirt?" This is like a movie that had on almost everything except a coat and a hat to leave the house because
It,
it's
it
cold
sounds
outside.
like it sounds like if we go with that analogy that you had the outfit planned out.
Hmm
Yeah, but you just came out the shower. You still
I
in your
put it
robe.
on. I had it
Yeah.
laid out on
Hey,
my
hey, yo,
bed.
yo, yo.
This is everything.
Everything is on the bed. Everything's on the bed,
I'm
but
telling you
you're
what I'm
not
going to wear.
dressed.
I
But
have
you're
a
not
picture of it
dressed.
of how I'm going to look when
But
I'm
you're not
done.
dressed. You're
And
still
then
not
as I'm
dressed.
about to put my clothes on, somebody else comes in and
You're
dresses.
not dressed.
But
So
I
when they
know
say
what
like, "Oh, is Anthony
my
ready to go
outfit is
out?"
picked out.
Does
This is how I'm
Anthony have
going to
an
look.
outfit?
This is
Yeah,
where it's
he
at.
has an outfit on the bed, but
He
he's
put
not
on
wearing any
everything.
clothes.
He put on all his clothes except his coat and hat.
Stop playing. Stop playing. $70 million. That's the coat and hat for you?
Yeah.
Really? $70 million? $70 million. We're not talking about like, yo, I just need to do a couple touch-ups for $5 million.
So
$70 million?
first off, it was going to be $30 million for the CGI, and then it was an additional $45
Because they
million
figured out
to
how much
bring back the
stuff they wanted
stars
to do.
too, right?
Because
Ben
they found out
Affleck
how much
ain't
stuff that was
free.
left. So
Ben Affleck
basically,
ain't free.
you sat
Jared
here and was
Leto
like,
ain't
"Oh man,
free.
I got my
Joe
outfit.
Manganiello
Oh
ain't
man,
free.
I
But
need to go buy another scarf
he
and another
expanded
hat
on his
and a
he
watch."
expanded on his original thing too, right? Because he did shoot new footage. It's not just like he just finished. He expanded on his old story. Originally, the budget to finish what he had was just 30 million, and then they revisited the topic and added to his scope, and then they added budget. So his original movie was almost done if he didn't add that
So
last
you
nightmare
were you
sequence.
were almost
That
dressed, but you had
last
to go get a hat and a
nightmare
scarf
sequence
and some
cost
gloves.
$45 million.
So you needed to go get some more accessories for
Yep.
your already finished, cleaned up,
Because now that I know you
dressed
ain't
up
letting me
attire.
back in the closet, I'm grabbing everything. I'm grabbing all the shit off the shelf. You ain't letting me back up in here. Put this shit on. Put that shit in your purse.
All right.
Yo,
No, I mean, look,
I think they should restore it. I think they should take all these movies that they started, Aquaman, Shazam, Black Adam, all of it, and just move it over to uh, HBO Max. And I think that what they're doing with like Joker being like an alternative take, the Batman, and just doing a multiverse thing for theatrical, unique one-off siloed universe, keep that in theaters, right?
I
Maybe they.
think I want to see what they're actually gonna do because based off of her interview, she said like, "Yo, we had a rough start, but now we're going away from the Snyderverse because we have other things in store that we want to do." And
And
I'm curious because here's the thing: you can't have the inmates running the asylum.
they
Fans
do.
cannot run it. They,
No,
I'm
no,
saying
not the inmates. I mean the directors.
no, but no, I'm talking about you can't have the fans, the Snyder fans, the base, whatever. You can't have them dictating how you do things as a company.
They
You
should
can
be.
listen to them. No, you can listen to them because any good company should listen, but the leadership should still come from the actual company. And it
If
has to be a coexisting type of relationship. Like, oh, the people want this. Okay, cool. Maybe we go with it, or maybe we show them something new that they don't even know that they're gonna like yet. So
maybe
I'm more
yes.
curious. I'm more curious as to let me see from what y'all learned in the past, because y'all clearly
Hmm.
learned that having 100%, overarching, overshadowing, interference control is not good. But you also saw that completely bending the knee to the fans can get toxic because even when you give them what they want, what are they going to want to do? They want more. You give
They
them a
just
crumb,
need.
they want
Hold
to cook.
on.
You
They
give
just
them a
need a
little something.
gatekeeper. They just need a gatekeeper, right? They need a Kevin Feige. All right. So
Well,
Zack Snyder.
maybe.
Zack Snyder.
Slow down. I don't think that that can work because we've had people try that already. Zack
Who?
Snyder was supposed to be the Joss Whedon to Marvel. Jeff
But he
Johns
wasn't the Kevin
Jeff
Feige.
Johns was supposed to be the Kevin Feige for them.
And and
And
and
and
I always
and
talk about this. The little bit of time that Jeff Johns was president was when we saw those positive changes to the DC universe,
too
right?
late.
That's when we got the Wonder
Too
Woman movie
late.
the
And I
way it
mean,
is. That's when we got the Shazam movie that you keep
yeah,
telling me is
but
great. That
but
has
but
Jeff Johns.
you
I
you
think
you
he
ask your
wrote it.
boy Ray
Didn't Jeff
Fisher.
Johns write Shazam?
You ask your boy Ray Fisher. Ah, your boy Ray Fisher will beg to differ. That's all I will say about that.
Uh,
I know that's a topic, but your boy Ray
uh,
Fisher, your boy Ray Fisher would say something very different
Yo.
about that. But outside of that, the reason why I would say no, I the one thing that if anybody wants to copy Marvel, because according to Anne in her interview, what she said that they're doing is they're having collective meetings, right? So now they're like, yo, we need to unify, the TV division, the
They
comic division, the
are
movie division,
full
the streaming
of
division.
it.
They want to do that's what they're saying they're doing. I don't really think that that's going to work for them, to be
They've been
honest.
saying that
I'm
for
nervous.
4 years now.
Hey,
Four
all I
years.
know, all I know is the people that were saying that four
So
years ago are not here today.
that was
So
Jeff
that's why
Johns.
he's not there right now.
But
He's not there.
but they're continuing his ideas.
No,
So
they're
like
supposedly they have something.
and he's not gone. He's just
No,
not an
I'm saying
employee.
he's not in that in that same position. They
No, but he's
isolated.
still in the room.
He's in
He's
the
still in
room,
the
but he
writer's
doesn't have the
room.
same power. There's a difference. There's been a shift.
Maybe,
They have the
depending on what they
hierarchy
give him.
already established. He's not what he used to
Yeah,
be.
but everybody could tell him like, listen, he might not be an employee, but listen to him as if he
He can
is,
still,
right?
but
We still got
that doesn't
what's
defeat what
his
I
name,
just said. I
chairman of
just
C.
said that they are trying to be in a room with like Jim Lee, Walter Hamada, Jeff Johns, and Sarnoff or whatever. They're trying to
Chipper
have
needs to.
everybody in the room so that they can be like, okay, how can we make this work in whatever way? Here's the thing: we don't know how they're gonna do it. We really don't, because I think the Flash movie is gonna be their ultimate reset, and that is
It
going
was
to
always supposed to be.
I mean, it was always supposed to be, but I'm saying we don't know what model they're about to follow
They
after
don't
this.
know either.
They're claiming that they do. So
No,
I'm
they
like,
don't.
okay, hey, hey,
You know
hey,
how we know
hey,
you know
hey.
how we know
No,
they
I'm
don't?
not even gonna jump that boat. Gonna say I'm in wait and see mode. I wanna
Remember,
you said that you got something new, show it to me. Because
you
when you
know,
fail or if you fail, I'm gonna call you out on it and be like,
I got
see, you never knew what you was doing.
3 words. Jared Leto's Joker. Remember, he's supposed to have a trilogy of movies that were announced at the same time as the Joaquin Phoenix. This is a telltale sign of
Who
a
announced
company
that?
that who announced what? The
Who
trilogy?
announced that?
I don't know. Warner
No,
Brothers.
no. See, that's the difference. We have to be clear. Now, was it Walter Hamada that had said that, or was it the previous executives who were sitting here like catching all this criticism? Because keep in mind, the previous regime, and I want to say that was back when Jim Lee was up there too, but the previous regime, the power structure that they had, they caved at any bit
Yes.
of criticism
Hold
that
on,
they
hold on, hold on,
received.
hold on. No, they started caving to anybody who would be willing to work with them, and that's where I was
No, no,
giving
no.
you
I'm
the
not talking about
inmates
that.
run the
No, no,
asylum
no. I'm
thing,
not talking about
where
that. I'm
like
talking about they were caving to criticism. That's why they changed
that's because
David
they
Ayer's
wanted
Suicide Squad. That's
that's
why they
because they wanted to
changed the
see all this
Justice League.
money, and
I
Jeff
know
Johns
that.
came and fixed
I know
Suicide
that, but
Squad.
what I'm saying is they still caved because they were more vulnerable to the criticism. That's why they were more reactive than they were proactive. This new regime, so that old regime, I think they were the ones after Suicide Squad came out, after Jared Leto
I
came
would
out and was
say
like,
that.
yo, all my scenes were cut and they butchered the
I
movie.
would say that if
Then,
it seemed
then
like they
you heard the
had a
deal. Hold
plan.
on. Then you heard the deal that Jared Leto was going to get all these other movies. And we took it as, aha, that is y'all caving again to the pressure and criticism. Now, the thing that we do need to clear up is, was that the old regime that promised that 3 Joker deal,
Hmm.
or was it the new regime? Because if it's the new regime, then now there's something you can either hold them accountable to that promise, or if they never promised that, we can't blame them for what the old knee-jerk reaction regime was doing, because the old regime was a mess. This new
When
regime has yet to fail for now. For now,
debatable.
literally,
Wonder Woman 84.
no, the movie was bad. I don't think the regime failed that. The movie was just bad.
That's not a failure. If when
No,
they put
the
introduce a
movie
bad
was
movie,
bad. The movie was bad, but I don't think the movie was bad because of the studio executives. I think that
then
was just a
whose
bad.
fault is it?
Oh, Patty Jenkins. You put that on Patty. Now,
Okay.
to be fair, we have to wait what 2-3 years, because we always hear this story. After they out they
Yo,
contract,
I
then they
know.
like,
Like,
oh
oh,
man,
there's
the
interference. They
studio
didn't let
did
me do.
this.
They did.
They cut,
Yo,
released the Jenkins cut.
no. Release the Ayercut.
No, no, no. I don't think anything can save that movie.
Yo, they clearly have beef with David Ayer. Like, whatever is the
See his
relationship
response?
between him and Warner Brothers
Did you
is
see his response?
not good. No.
So on Twitter, after the article was dropped, because this article is like, I mean, they drop a lot of different nuggets here, and they asked her straight up. They were like, "Hey, so are we gonna get an Ayer cut since we got the Snyder cut?"
I
She was
saw
like,
that.
"No," and he responded on Twitter, "Yeah, I mean,
Ayercut. Yeah, this man.
yeah, no." He responded, and he
What do you
was
say?
just like, "Why?" They were like, "Yeah, we ain't gonna do it." He was like, "Why? Why?" But my thing is like, yo, what have we heard? Like, I don't think we're going to get the jump and the gap that we got with Snyder. I mean, when you look at Batman v Superman and BV in the Ultimate Edition, that was like a 5 point jump, right? Because it was still Snyder's vision. It was just heavily edited, right?
Hmm.
Because runtime and stuff. So, it was like a 5 point jump. But when you
Hmm.
look at like the Whedon cut versus the Snyder cut, that's like a 15 point jump, because it's literally two different visions, competing. I don't know if we're going to get that significant of a jump with an Ayer cut. I mean,
So
is Ayer going to radically change the tone of the movie? I mean, I think outside of the things that we've he's told us, right? He told us that Joker has more scenes. There's more
Mm-hmm.
scenes with Batman and Harley Quinn and Joker. Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, I'm like, bro, that ain't about to sit here and radically change the movie. I mean, that might be like a 3 point jump. Like
So
it's cool. Maybe we won't clown Jared Leto's Joker as much as we did, but I mean, I don't see enough for this to justify it outside of release it again on DVD, drop
yeah,
whatever extra scenes, maybe
yeah,
include a feature where you could say,
yeah.
like, hey, because remember back in the day, you could add bonus features with the movie. Like, I, y'all could do that. You,
So the only reason I think this Ayercut should have some credibility, and I think it's a good reason, is because he's a much credible director.
I
When we
thought so.
had to talk about somebody with like Zack Snyder versus David Ayer, who's a more credible director? Don't get me wrong, Zack Snyder's got wonderful visuals.
Technically, I would
David
okay.
Ayer,
If you were to tell me, well, actually, that's a good matchup, to be honest, because if I'm not trying to think or feel, I'm gonna go with Zach. But if I do want to get into it, like I'll probably go with David Ayer
right?
because
I think a
he's been
movie
doing
like End
stuff.
of Watch. You
Oh,
remember End of
End of
Watch? Oh
Watch,
my
End of
God,
Watch, End of Watch threw me for a
Fury.
loop. I was sitting here like I didn't think it was gonna be that good, and it was phenomenal. And then
Yeah.
Fury blew me away. Yeah. So my man David Ayer, like when I tell
So
you I was so hyped for Suicide Squad because I thought he was gonna be able to go and do what he does, but
and it was reported early when he
yeah,
was in production, like, hey, people are coming in and changing the direction of my film, right? Like he pretty much was like, hands in the air, it's not even my movie anymore. So
I
with
don't remember.
him,
I don't remember that. I need to see that because I do remember now. Granted, he was under contract, but he
yeah,
was saying early multiple times, "This
yeah,
is my cut. There is no other version." Now that could be studio pressure again.
yeah.
Being a
No,
company
the
man.
interference with the film came out. I remember back when they were leaking the scenes of Batman being in the movie and riding on top of the Joker's
Right.
vehicle. That's when I first started remembering them talking about interference in the direction of the movie because he
Yeah.
wanted to expand that scene,
Right.
but
Right.
they were having issues because they thought it was going to be disruptive to the tone and what they
It
wanted to tell,
probably will be though.
right? Because they were like, "Yo, Joker and Batman was going to get into it."
Yeah, I mean, but like, think about it though. Like, it probably
So.
would. It's kind of like the. Did you watch the animated Suicide Squad movie yet?
No.
Attack on
I
Arthur.
started to watch it and I get
Okay,
it,
first
but
of all, you need to watch it. That movie is cold, but there are scenes, and I'm not gonna ruin it because it is actually a really good scene. But there
yeah.
are scenes in there that distract from the main
So
movie.
yeah, and my point being is David Ayer, being the credible director that he is, the talented director that he is, the obvious fan he is for the genre, when he speaks up and says, "Hey, me too." I want to give that, like, this is like when Ray Fisher was sitting here talking about, shit was happening or there's a different cut or there's a different air cut and people were
Hmm.
like, sit down, Ray, you don't know what the fuck you do. All right,
Hmm.
this is a line with that. I'm saying like David Ayer needs to be, he might be saying something legit. Like he's not like a run of the mill director. He's not a studio man, right? He's not a company man. He he's a legit director.
I think he has less of a following, and I don't. I think it's way. It was already unlikely with Snyder. It was already
So
unlikely with him.
yeah, but he had the talent. The only difference between David Ayer and Snyder is just opportunity. When we talk
Yes.
about like people like
I
J.J.
don't think there's the
Abrams,
opportunity here. That's what
who
I'm
is
saying. I agree.
clearly an overrated director who doesn't deserve his credit, versus somebody like David Ayer who does deserve his credit,
I
it was
agree.
just
I
opportunity.
don't think that. I think that for WB, they're gonna be like, we're not opening this can of worms. We're just not.
No,
We're
they're not.
not because
Can we?
at the end of the day, as a studio, you have to create boundaries because this is an age old issue. This isn't new. this is nothing like, it's not the first time a director had creative differences with the studio
No,
and maybe they wanted to do something. I mean, this stuff goes back for decades of directors wanting this, studio wanting that. But guess what? Whoever pays for the product, you're going to get that final say, right? So, but the thing is, you don't want to disrupt that power structure either. It's a fine balance with any type of, because here's the thing, any director is the employee of the studio. You
yes,
work for the
the
studio.
contractor.
You're the contractor, right? Like they come in for you to do a job. Now,
Hmm.
even if it's kind of like, even if it was my house, right? Like if I hire a contractor to come build my house, I'm paying you. If you wanted to be like, yo, man, I really want the stairs to be a spiral. And I'm like, no, I want them to be straight. I don't care what your vision is. You gonna build my house the way I want.
Yeah, but this isn't that, right? This is more like when you're contracting an artist to do an interpretation of your portrait, and they're going to do it in their style,
I
right?
like to
You're
do
not going to
that.
be able to dictate that, right? It's going to be
If
their
you say
style, and
like,
you got to
yo,
pay for it.
put a sword on me,
Yeah,
I want a samurai
yeah,
sword.
but
I don't care what you think.
when you get impressionism or some other type of art, like some new modern art, as opposed to
Yeah,
something like realism, you shouldn't be surprised because this is the type of artist you hired. You didn't
right,
hire that type of
right,
artist.
right. No, I get
Anyway.
it.